درود و خوش آمدین. Thank you, Canadians for Democracy in Iran, for this invitation. I'm proud to serve on your advisory board and proud of the work you're doing. Today, I'd like to concentrate my talk on the Iranian opposition on the outside of Iran, the evolution of how we got to where we are since the killing of Mahsa Amini, and conclude with remarks on where I believe we go from here to be successful in our joint aim of overthrowing the regime and establishing a democratic Iran with free and fair elections so that Iranians can decide for themselves which system of government they want. When Mahsa was killed and protests erupted and evolved into a full-fledged revolution with aggrieved parties from all walks of life, spanning the entire country, from young and old, from cities and villages alike, what was so heartwarming was the fact that all freedom-loving Iranians seemed behind it, united under the banner of woman, life, freedom. At that time, no one spoke of politics, of ethnicities, or any particular leader. People were only united based on values. And in fact, people were going out of their way to say how much they stood behind their brothers and sisters in Kurdistan and Baluchistan. And we were all celebrating the extreme courage and bravery of women and the men that stood alongside them, sacrificing their lives for freedom. Even outside of Iran, we were celebrating the mass rallies. 50,000 people gathered in Toronto and upwards of 100,000 in Berlin. Living in a dictatorship where the right to peaceful assembly or the formation of political parties is forbidden, Iranians expected us on the outside to help by echoing and amplifying their voices, delivering their messages to our own heads of state, policymakers, and media, demanding the West to isolate the IRI by cutting diplomatic and economic ties similar to what the world did to apartheid in South Africa. I'm very proud of all Iranians and their level of advocacy that was unprecedented. People were sleepless, trying to figure out how best they could use their individual skills and talents to advance the revolution. People used the arts through dance, painting, theater, fashion design, graphic design. People used their journalistic skills to write great articles for top publications and appear on nightly news broadcasts. People that had never spoken to their political representatives started lobbying them very effectively, I must add, including just a few days ago with the Mahsa Act passing the House Foreign Affairs Committee in the United States. Many formed groups focused in different sectors, like hundreds of medical doctors came together to provide advice and aid to injured protesters and even psychological help. Others yet on policy or campaigns to list the IRGC on the terrorist list. And when we worked united and strategically in our joint cause against the regime, we had many successes that went beyond the symbolic, like the lighting of the Eiffel Tower, the World Parliaments, or Niagara Falls, or mounting the previous Iranian flag in city halls. We managed to raise global awareness on the plight of Iranians and accomplish tangible, unprecedented, and almost impossible feats, like kicking the Islamic Republic of Iran off of the UN's Commission for the Status of Women, like getting the UN's Human Rights Council to establish a fact-finding mission to investigate human rights violations in Iran. Heads of state like Macron recognizing this struggle as a revolution. Civil society leaders in the Iranian diaspora being invited to international meetings where IRI officials had traditionally attended, like the World Economic Forum in Davos or the Munich Security Forum. Thousands of IRGC members being listed on the terrorist list in Western countries. The close to unanimous decision by members of the European Parliament to designate the IRGC as a terrorist entity in its entirety. Getting a couple Iranian diplomats expelled. The Association of Families of Victims of PS 752 successfully succeeding to get Canada, Sweden, Ukraine, and the UK to trigger a process to hold Iran legally accountable for shooting down Flight PS752. Numerous awards and recognitions to women of Iran, including the US State Department, Times Magazine Heroes of the Year, and next week we'll see Atlantic Council and Freedom House respectively honoring women of Iran as well. And of course, the unforgettable night where Shervin Hajipour received a Grammy for his anthem-like song برای that united us all. And of course, there was a lot of excitement with the formation of the group ADFI, Alliance for Democracy and Freedom in Iran, or مشروط همبستگی محسا, Manshure. Just as a reminder how this group came together, a good number of Iranians had repeatedly called for these names, backed in legitimacy by Gaman polling, as recognizable and accomplished figures in the diaspora to potentially be part of a solidarity council. And that day came, where they formalized their announcement at Georgetown University with a declaration and a promise of an upcoming charter. The charter was formed based on consultation from civil society leaders inside Iran. They repeatedly said that it was a living document that was incomplete, covered only the basic agreed shared principles, and could be worked upon. Despite their political differences, they were all very respectful and cordial with one another at all times. Then it seemed like due to external pressures, challenges came about. At first, Shahzadeh Reza Pahlavi announced that he would also be supporting other groups, and I believe he wanted to be above the fray. Hamed Esmailion felt that his ideas of organizing committees was not formalizing. The four others, Shirin Ebadi, Masih Alinejad, Nazanin Bonyadi, and Abdullah Muhtadi, have remained committed to ADFI and look forward to expanding and improving it. What went wrong can only be answered by those inside the room. But as an outsider, I have made some observations. I believe generally as a community, we still have weaknesses in organizational skills. We need a strong framework and roadmap ahead. It seemed ADFI was headed in that direction, but people expected more and at a faster pace. Each one of these figures were carrying too much weight. They were the ones on tour, meeting politicians, doing interviews, talking at universities, listening to victims in Iran, hosting news, while being expected to write a charter and create an organization from scratch. There needed to be a second layer to absorb the pressure and level of work required. They were wanted in all parts of the world at the same time when they needed to be in one place at one time doing the structure first and then carrying out their duties either as spokespeople or as political figures. And if they couldn't, they needed experts first to help them with structure, protocols for decision making, a PR/communications team, etc. Because of a lack of time, people confuse this with a lack of transparency or lack of inclusivity or lack of interest to consult with experts in the community. However, their hearts were in the right place and their intentions were to do just that. This time lag allowed the regime to creep in and unleash their cyber army at full force, creating lies and allowing the extremists of the Iranian opposition to pick up and spread those lies. The past couple of weeks seem to have been a down period in our movement with the disunity in social media. But we can look at it in a different light. It is not every day that people are involved in revolutions. It's a journey, a learning process, an evolution. What appears as setbacks perhaps has taught us some lessons on preparedness for the path ahead. I see the path going in one of two ways. One, a centralized, organized structure with a clear roadmap, committees chaired and run by experts in particular fields and interconnected with other committees to bring about a holistic and multidimensional plan to move the revolution forward, all the while being constantly in touch and receiving direction from civil society leaders from within Iran. Or two, if Iranians of different political leanings are not willing or able to be under one umbrella, then concentrating on campaigns and project-based cooperation where people park their politics at the door and work on campaigns, as I highlighted at the start of my talk, where we have proven to be successful up to a certain degree. This method forces people to practice democracy while building trust. One could argue that we could, in the end, even go with a hybrid model of the two, or the second option could evolve into the first option. Whatever we do, we must not lose sight that we are all on the same team to bring down the regime, and all the squabbles and debates can be saved for after the regime falls. That is why I was pleased with the conference my peers on this panel organized in March in Toronto, bringing together heads of Iranian political parties in the diaspora and other political thought leaders in a first step towards a network, so that there is a line of communication between political groups and individuals, and we can build on that good faith and level of trust and include more people in the next gatherings. Similarly, I've been creating a different network, connecting over 30 Iranian diaspora groups and dozens of activists in monthly Zoom calls in a network so that we can be as efficient as possible in serving Iranians from within in their asks and demands from us. I would be happy to answer more questions on this. Just to conclude, I would like to encourage you to keep your faith and spirits high. We should be proud of everything we have already accomplished, yet we have a lot more to do. Iranians have sacrificed way too much. We owe it to them. We owe it to our beloved country of birth, Iran, and we owe it to Canada and the safety and security of all Canadians and all those in the free world. Thank you for your patience with the sound.